everybody. Good evening. Hello, wherever you're watching in the world. My name is Claire Broad. I'm a medium, I'm an author, and a spiritual teacher. And I have the great pleasure of coming to you tonight across Watkins platforms and my own Facebook page in conjunction with Watkins Wisdom Academy, where I have created and worked with Watkins to bring you a psychic power and spirit communication module lessons so that you can learn as beginners all about psychic ability and spirit communication. And as part of that, as part of the Watkins Wisdom Academy, I'm bringing you this video as well this evening to teach you a little bit about mediumship and to help you understand how, even as a beginner, you can learn to sense the spirit world around you. I think a lot of us seem to assume that only mediums, professional mediums, can actually sense the spirit world around them. And actually, that's not true. And much of my work as a medium is to try and help people to understand that they can have that connection for themselves. So I'm seeing lots of people coming up saying hello here. We've got people joining on this beautiful sunny evening in the UK. So I just want to welcome you all and thank you so much for being part of this event. So just before we get going, I just want to let you know a little bit about me if you haven't actually met me before. I have 24 years experience as a professional medium, and I wrote a book for Watkins called What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, because I wanted to help people understand that life goes on, that you are never alone, and that therefore you can continue to have a relationship with those in the spirit world, your loved ones, your spirit guides, and the angelic realms, so that you can have some comfort, be motivated to move through your grief, and to actually be able to enjoy a fuller, more happier life, really, because you know that life goes on. And my goodness, don't we need that message in these times? So this is going to be a short presentation, a short talk really, just to help you understand how you may have that relationship for yourself with your loved ones in spirit, because it's one of the biggest questions that people ask me all the time is, how can I know when my loved ones are drawing close to me? And is there anything that I can do to help, one, encourage that, or to recognize when our loved ones are close? So that's what I want to address in this video with you this evening. Now, I'm going to start, as I do actually in my book, and just address the question of consciousness, because if you're coming from a materialistic viewpoint, which, you know, really in this world, we're still very much in that thought process, which is that when the body dies, when the brain dies, consciousness ceases. If you're coming from that viewpoint, it's very hard to actually accept and to know for yourself that life goes on. Because it's difficult to appreciate, if you think that when the brain's dead, consciousness ceases, it's difficult to appreciate that. How could it go on? How could there be spirit realms? And I'm somebody who has investigated the science as well as got hands-on as a practitioner. And I can tell you, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't deluded, or that I wasn't having experiences that I have had imagined, even though I know I wasn't, I got very hands-on with the science side of things. And I can, not to bore you with any science here tonight, because we don't have time with that really, but just to let you know, I can let you know that the scientists don't know what consciousness is. In fact, it's the great mystery within our universe. And yet it seems to me, from personal experience and from the many people that communicate and contact to me in this world, that many of us are having experiences with an afterlife. And that there is so much evidence for the suggestion that consciousness survives physical death. And it's not just with mediumship, although the science is there with the likes of Dr. Julie Byshall and the Windbridge Institute. She studied mediums and now actually says that she can't prove the afterlife, but she can prove the mediums she studied aren't fraudulent. But there's more science to do with near-death experience, past life memories in children, so much science out there, pretty much pointing to the fact that we don't understand consciousness, but in some way, shape or form, it continues on after death. So it's in that respect that I'm talking to you this evening, in the understanding and the given that when we die, a part of us continues on. This used to be called, in Greek terms, the psyche, or the soul. We call it spirit as well. You know, whatever label you put on it, it's that essence, that part of us that was never physical in the first place, and that continues on. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about how it is that you can feel and become in touch with that in a bit, to give you some tips really, so that you can bring mediumship into your home and do it safely. Because the fascinating thing is, years ago in the Victorian times, when we didn't have lots of distraction, lots of modes of entertainment, TV, computer games, phones, all of that, people used to come around the table with their loved ones, and they used to just sit and ask out, and they trusted that their loved ones were there, and they were inquisitive, they were scientific about it, they were experimental, and they asked for loved ones to come forward. Literally, is anybody there? And a whole movement came up of people, some fraudulent, but many, many not, having experiences where they learnt the afterlife is real. And because we have, if you like, almost logically explained this away now, and let science kind of rule our thinking by letting us believe that there's nothing more, many of us have stopped asking, stopped sitting, experimenting, and trying to find out if consciousness really does survive after physical death. So, I believe as a medium, my job really is to empower you to understand that you can do that, that it's safe to do that. Many people worry about, you know, if they're opening a doorway between two worlds, are they going to have negative experiences? Well, the things that I'm going to teach you tonight, the little tips I'm going to give you, are absolutely safe. And I just want you to know that your loved ones are with you anyway. They're coming close to you, they're helping you, they're supporting you. So, nothing I talk about tonight isn't anything that they're not already doing. Of that, I am 100% sure myself. Now, how can I know that and say I'm 100% sure? Well, when I was 4 years old, I was standing in a cemetery and I gave a message from my deceased grandfather to my grandmother. And, you know, at the age of 4, I had no knowledge of death and dying. I had no concept really of, you know, an afterlife, that's for sure. I didn't grow up in a particularly religious upbringing. I had no need to believe that my granddad had survived, you know, even at that young age. I hadn't yet formed a really strong, loving bond with him. He'd been ill for most of my life. So there was no reason for me to believe or to have this contact with my grandfather. And yet, at the age of 4, it happened. And I gave a message to my grandmother, and my nan knew until her dying day that her husband had come close to give her a loving message that day. Now, if that can happen to a 4-year-old safely, and you know, in a loving way, where the message being delivered was so loving and my nan could feel the love of her husband coming around her, then it can happen to all of us in a gentle, loving way. And that's what I really want to get across to you, to dispel some of the fear and to help you to understand that, you know, death ends a life, it doesn't end a relationship, and that you can continue that relationship on safely, lovingly, bringing yourself comfort, feeling joy, and just allowing yourself to heal through grief and to embrace life, to live your best life. That's what my work's all about, really. So, what is mental mediumship is the next thing that I want to cover with you, because there are different types of mediumship, and the mediumship I'm talking about tonight is to do with mental mediumship. It's a bit of an unfortunate term, I think, because some people may think that mediums are a bit mental, but I can assure you that most of us are completely sane. And that the term relates really to the mind, mental thinking. Now, because of that, there's different types of mediumship. As I just said, there is something called physical mediumship, which is where you may actually get raps and taps and all that kind of thing that you might see on popular programs on the TV. But what we're dealing with here this evening is the mental side of things. And that means that the spirit world can actually come close. They are energy beings, they are soul, essence, they are spirit, they are mind, they are consciousness, as I was just explaining. And they can come close to us. And as they do that, we can experience in our own minds the contact that they bring. Mental mediumship basically is a blending of minds. It's a coming together of souls, and it's a sensing and feeling the energy of a loved one around you. And then mentally, understanding what that contact means. Because in truth, you sense the contact first, and it doesn't just get sensed in the mind, you'll be sensing it with your whole body. Maybe at the solar plexus, maybe at the heart, within the soul. Maybe you get shivers. There may be many symptoms, smells, hearing, but you will actually then try to understand mentally what you're getting. So that's the mental mediumship side of things. And so, therefore, if it's just mind to mind, what I'm sharing with you tonight is tips that you can do to help expand your own awareness so that when your spirit loved ones, your spirit guides and helpers come close to you, your mind is prepared and open and wanting to receive. And that's the best state you can be in, really, in order to be able to receive communication from the afterlife. It's not rocket science. It's simple. It isn't easy because most of us have busy minds. We're thinking all the time. We're distracted, as I said, in everyday life. But if you can quieten the mind, and if you can stay open minded with not necessarily a belief, but just a mindset that says, well, maybe it's possible, then you are setting yourself up for the best conditions possible to be able to receive that insight that's coming to you from your loved ones. So, what can we do then? I mean, I would usually be teaching students the basics of mediumship, but so what I'm going to teach you today are the basics of developing mediumship if you are on your own in your home, because it strikes me that here we are, we're in isolation. We can't come together maybe as we would do normally to see mediums working, to get the validation. Maybe you're lucky to get a reading. But actually, science shows that when our loved ones pass, they are more likely in the first few months, 3 to 6 months, to reach out to you direct with signs, through dreams, through senses and feelings. And you may be missing that precious communication because you don't believe that you're able to receive it. So, what I'm going to teach you now are some tips, different little exercises that you can just do at home if you are keen to develop your own connection with the spirit world. It doesn't mean that you're going to go out and become a medium. It took me good 10 years really to become proficient as a medium to work in the public. And I still sit every single week now. And I have done for 24 years. So, this isn't a fast skill, but it is a skill that if you're patient with, if you recognize that, yes, sometimes your mind will get in the way and it will feel you're making it up, that's absolutely fine. But, as you bring these practices into your daily life, into your home, just as part of everyday life, really, and just then, put it out there and let the spirit world do what they can do, then at some point you might receive some insight that really does give you some comfort, some hope, some inspiration, or some motivation. So what can you do at home then? And this is how I would teach you, beginner students. So what I'm telling you here is really the elementary side of mediumship if you were starting out. So one of the exercises that I like to give people is mediums call it sitting in the power. Basically, if you don't know how your own energy feels, how are you going to know if a spirit person comes into your energy field? Now, many of us accept the fact that we've got an aura. Science may call it an electromagnetic field. We are an energy being. We are giving off energy all the time. And that's true because if you think about if two people have had an argument and you walk into the room and you feel the atmosphere, where are you feeling that? You're generally feeling it with your physical body, not with your mind. You're generally walking into an energy and sensing that there is something in the room that's making you feel uneasy or informing you that there has been a problem, and the people have been arguing. There's an atmosphere. So we do this naturally. That's mediumship, because basically what you're doing is you're picking up on the energy of the two living people that have had an argument. Now, what if you could then use that ability to tune in to the subtle energies that are around you and sense your loved ones who come close? Exactly the same principle. So the first lesson is to learn to sit in the power. As you sit, you can just sit quietly. You can even do it with me now. You can sit in the stillness. You can just listen to my voice. Maybe you can hear birds outside or traffic going by, just the sounds around you. You don't have to close your eyes. You can just be here with me right now and try and let go of all your thoughts of the day and just to sit in the stillness and the peace and just sense underneath it that there is that kind of energy there of you. Another way you can do it is to try and bring your attention to your hands or your feet and just to focus on your hands, rest them on your lap and just focus on your hands, and you can feel the energy there. You can feel an aliveness in your hands or in your feet. Usually that's the easiest place to start. And if you can feel that aliveness there, you might be able to bring up the energy into your whole body and feel the energy all around you, and then sense that you are buzzing, you are life, you are that energy. Now, and if you can do that, then the next question is, how do I feel? Am I full of energy or am I depleted? How does my energy feel? And once you've done that, you see, then you get a feel for who you are as you're sitting in that peace and that stillness. So that if you're then ready to invite a loved one to come close, you will be aware of, this is how my energy feels today. This is where I'm at today. These are my moods today. This is how much energy I've got or haven't got. So that if you suddenly feel a temperature change, or if you suddenly feel like you're being boosted, or you're feeling your mood is lifting, often I find as the spirit world draw close, I feel humor. I want to laugh. I feel more light-hearted. Because they have a good sense of humor, and and they're well and full of life. Often I feel a shift in my own energy, like a boost, and I know someone's there. And then I may be able to feel, is this a male, is it a female? And for you, if you're trying to feel if it's loved ones, you already know them, so it may be that it's somebody coming close that you instantly recognize. I call it like their soul code. It's the aspect of them that you'd instantly recognize, their personality, or maybe you feel a peace come around you, or lots of love just enveloping you. That's called sitting in the power. It's very easy, very simple to do, and every one of us can do it at home. I mean, we've just done it now here. I've just talked you through it. Nothing spooky, nothing to worry about. Simple exercise, and yet do it and do it often, and you will start to see results. And that's how mediums train. They train by learning to sit in that space and to sense when the energy shifts and when someone else comes close. So that's my first tip. My second tip is in alignment with that, really, but it's meditation. Meditation is the key that unlocks the door. So if you want to begin to sense the spirit world, as I said earlier, your consciousness, and you need to learn to still the mind. In fact, some of the best mediums that you may see working out, they often have like a spacey look about them. They kind of look a little bit sort of like they're there and not there as they're working. They might be staring off into the distance somewhere, and it's because they've entered into an altered state. And in my books, I explain about how the brain changes and the altered states of awareness that mediums get into, and that there's science behind this as well, guys. So, it is well documented and looked into now. And we can know that as the brain shifts gears and moves into an altered state, we are then more receptive to receive insight, whether it's in dreams, through meditation. It opens the brain, it allows our mind to receive insights in a very creative way. So if you learn to meditate, if you bring visualization into your day, or maybe you prefer just to focus on your breath, doesn't matter what technique you use. What matters is that you're learning to create some spaces between your thoughts and, the gap, the stillness, the space there between everything, really, so that when the spirit world come close, they can drop a bit of insight in. Mediums often talk about it feeling like a download. It's just suddenly there's a piece of information, or suddenly you can see someone's face that you loved, or you hear a song playing out in your head, or you smell flowers or perfume that's familiar to a particular person. And because you've become receptive and because you've become still, you're able to have that insight brought to you. So meditation really is the key that unlocks the door. And the good thing about visualization is that your spirit guides, your loved ones, can join you in it. Because if your consciousness, if you can imagine, if you can think, if you are existing in the realm of consciousness, of spirit, then you can actually blend, as I was saying earlier, in mind with a loved one here in physical form, because you are spirit, just in physical form, blending together and creating together. If you think about imagination, if you think about dreams, they are hyper creative states. And that's really what you're getting yourself into. And we can dismiss those realities and think that they're not real. And, you know, the physical world is real and a world of dreams and imagination is not a real reality, when actually it is a different reality, yes, but it's just as real as our physical reality. And actually, if you think about it, when you go to sleep at night, we all dream, all of us, even if you can't remember it. So we spend half our life in that reality, and yet we belittle it and say it's nothing really. Well, it's not true. And as you learn to meditate and to bring visualization into your day, you then create a space where those in the spirit world can create with you. And when you first start, it can be very difficult. So stick with it, just keep at it, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a week, even once a week. Over time, you will find that every so often in your visualization, something drops in that you don't know, that you hadn't thought of. Maybe it's a name you've never heard of or an insight that you didn't know. And I always now research, get on the internet, and look up what I'm hearing, seeing, or learning. And it's amazing what you can get through what's known as the collective consciousness in meditation. It's a really powerful tool, and it's an excellent tool for mediumship. Again, safe and great for your health. Even your heart health, your physical body really benefits. So what have you got to lose? Just give it a go. Now, the next tip I want to give you is, I just touched on it, the dream world, the imagination world. In your dreams, your loved ones come close to you. I have lost count of the amount of people that communicate to me, get in contact with me, send me messages. I've put it in my books, the stories that have been given to me of the everyday person who loses a loved one and then experiences what we call a night vision, an incredibly lucid dream where you can sense and feel your loved ones with you at night. Literally, sometimes people talk about, you know, experiencing them in the room with them, that they kind of become lucid even though they're still asleep. Or you may have a dream where you're journeying through a field or something and you see your loved one come in. But they have a theme to them, the night visions, when spirit come in. And that theme is that your loved ones in spirit look well. It's extremely vivid. The emotions that they relay to you are so strong that you are feeling the love, you're feeling the wellness, you are absolutely submerged into that dream. It's as real to you as waking state. So much so, and that's why they're called night visions, that when you wake up, you can still remember and feel the love, the touch, you know, the look of your loved ones. Don't dismiss these dreams. When you have dreams like this, is your loved ones trying to let you know that they're well. They want to give you peace of mind. They want you to know that, you know, life goes on. They don't want you to be grieving so much. They want you to have some peace of mind. It's not the same when a loved one dies. Of course it isn't. We miss their physicality, we miss their voice, we miss being able to speak to them, laugh with them, go for advice. But you can still have that contact through the sleep state, through meditation, through sitting in the power. You can feel your loved ones there. And I want to stress to you again, because a lot of my work is about rising above fear, that there is nothing scary, spooky about anything I'm teaching you tonight. It's just a shift in perception. It's starting to understand that consciousness isn't reliant on the physical body. And therefore, if it can continue after death and you are consciousness, then you already are that. And so are your loved ones. And it's just that blending, that coming together. You know, love creates the ties that bind. If there is a bond there, that bond will last. It isn't dependent on the physical body. If you think about where love is in your chest, in your heart, where you feel it, it's not a physical experience anyway. So it's that aspect of your loved ones that you are connecting with. And you can do that through your dreams. One of the tips that I like to give is, if you want to ask out, it's a really good idea to ask. Ask and it will be given, because you're giving permission then for your loved ones. You're You're letting them know that you are open to receive, that you won't be frightened if they reach out to you, that you would love them to. And one way you can do this is in your dreams. Before you go to bed, you could ask, if you're able to come through to me in my sleep tonight and let me know you're there, I would love to receive some insight. One of the tips I often give out to people is that you can even write a letter, just a little note saying what you want to tell them, because many of us are left with regrets that we haven't said all we want to say to our loved ones when they die. Well, maybe you could say that, write it out, leave them a note, and leave it open ended, asking a question, if you're able to tell me this, or what would you like to tell me, and see if it comes back to you in a dream. Now, I know this sounds crazy, it seems so simple, but these are the techniques that help expand your mind. Remember, when you're going to sleep, you're going into an altered state naturally, and your brain is becoming super receptive. You're going into the theta brainwave states, into the delta. This is where you learn, you absorb, where your mind isn't tethered by, cultural society and all the things that we're told are possible or aren't possible. You're going into a realm of possibility when you sleep. And that's why your loved ones find it easier sometimes to reach out to you in that state than in your everyday state, where you're distracted, or whether you're dismissive, or where you're worrying that you're deluding yourself, or that your grief has got the better of you, and all the things that we do to try and make sure that we're keeping our mental health. They're all important things and important questions. But, your loved ones are going to come through to you at a time when you're most receptive, probably at the times when you're not expecting. So when you do ask, stand back from that ask. Trust. Know that you've put the thought out there. You see, our thoughts are energy. Behind our thoughts, behind the words that we think, is an emotion, a feeling that is powerful. It travels out into the universe, goes to those that you love, because the spirit dimensions are only around us. They're not off somewhere up in heaven miles away. They're here. We're multi-dimensional beings anyway. So when your love and thoughts go out, they are able to receive them, much like a text going out. It doesn't make any sense how that information travels invisibly across our world, but it does. And your thoughts are the same. So send your thoughts out, send your emotions out, and then trust, ask, know that it will be received, and let your loved ones in spirit, your guides and helpers, show you in the best way that they can. So many times we put demands on, expectations, or we think we need to have it in this way, otherwise we won't be able to believe it. I see many people come to me for readings and say, well, I agreed a code. We agreed this before my loved one died, and can you give it to me? Well, it doesn't work like that. What if the medium can't receive that code or doesn't recognize it? And what if your loved one can't get that code through to you? So keep an open mind and trust that they will let you know in the best way they can, and you will recognize it. When they come close, you will recognize it. You'll have a feeling. It may be feelings of peace. It may be that you sense their presence. It may be that you feel their personality. Like I said earlier, you may see an image or receive a smell of a perfume hear a song that just in many ways, shape, or form, they will come through to you. And we haven't even touched on signs yet. We're talking about mediumship tonight. So put the signs together with the mental mediumship side of things, and you are doubling up your chances of hearing from your loved ones. So the last tip that I want to give you out tonight, because I'm conscious of the fact that, I don't want to be bombarding you with information. Really, I'm giving you some food for thought and some free advice and tips to help you get going with this. The last tip I want to give you is that if you hold a photograph of your loved one and you can see them, they love this. It comes through in readings all the time. They really do love it when we keep photographs and we talk to them, when we engage with them. So why not sit just in the peace and quiet, maybe after having done a meditation, hold a photograph of your loved one and send your thoughts out and ask them a question. And just go still after that, in the power, and see what comes back. And go with the first thought that comes in your mind. Anything after that, and you're thinking about it. But if you receive an impression, if it comes in quickly and it's there, like that download I was talking about earlier, then trust it. Jot it down, keep a journal, keep a dream journal. That's a good idea. But, hold the photo and then just see what comes back to you. Again, with all of these tips I'm giving you tonight, you can't expect to receive results just like that. You might get it as quickly as that, but these are practices that you can put into everyday life, mediumship into your everyday life, in your home, where you can be developing skills, opening your mind, experimenting in a safe way, just inviting your loved ones, your guides and helpers to come close to you. Now, before I go to questions and answers on this, what I would like to do is to actually leave you with just one other tip that you might want to do before you start any of this. And that is that it's a good idea, good practice before you do any kind of spirit communication experiment with mediumship at all, is to set the intention for how you wish to work. So some people may say a prayer, but you're asking, I would like to connect with my loved ones. I want to do this in peace, in harmony, in total protection, with my best interests at heart, with the highest of intentions, connecting in with only those who come close to me, who are loving, who want to help me understand that the afterlife is real, want to help heal me. And if you can come in that light, then I'm ready to experience. Then you've set the boundaries. And anything that should happen or would happen, which doesn't happen, outside of that, then all you would do is just shut down that communication and go about your day. Stop the meditation, stop asking out, stop holding the photo, close down, and go about your day. And when you finish doing your exercises, I would advise that you do the same thing at the end. So say thank you so much to your loved ones for trying to come through to you. Let them know that you know they're there, even if you haven't felt anything, that you appreciate the effort they may be going to, because this is not easy for them. If we think it's hard to expand our mind, to still our brain, and to receive communication in the physical world from the non-physical world, it's even harder for them. So acknowledge that they will be attempting, because they love you, to let you know that they're there. Again, close down, set the intent. I'm now closed. I don't wish to receive any more insight today until I'm ready next time to work again. And then just bring your thoughts back to everyday life. Some people like to visualize roots coming up over their feet, or putting themselves in a bubble of protection. Whatever you like to use as a visualization to set the intent, this is the end now, I'm closed. I'm not open to receive now. That is good practice. Remember, what you're doing here all along is working with consciousness, the brain, setting boundaries, and expanding your mind and learning to close your mind back to everyday levels again when you're finished. So this has been a real whistle-stop tour, but the aim of this talk this evening on this live was just to help everyday people understand that, mediums aren't special, that we are all spirit. The difference between me as a professional medium and perhaps you at home is that I have spent 24 years every single week sitting to do this. I have dedicated my life to it and committed my time to understanding the mind and to developing a spiritual practice. And yes, I have had experiences that let me know that there was something more that led me down this road. Perhaps you haven't had those experiences, but we can all enjoy using crayons and creating pictures, even if we don't go on to be a Picasso. It's the same thing here. You may not be a professional medium. You don't need to be a professional medium, but you might enjoy just expanding your awareness, getting in touch with the spiritual dimensions, feeling the love that comes to you, and developing your own connection with spirit so that you can know your loved ones are there. And it isn't going to be a full-blown conversation that you have, let's be realistic, but it'll be the odd insight, the odd feeling of love and peace that just helps you know you're not alone, love never dies, and when it's your time to cross, they'll be there for you, and that will be a wonderful reunion. But you don't have to wait till that time to be feeling the presence and the love that's there with you always. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to open up now to anybody who wants to ask any questions and answers. Remember that if you enjoyed this talk, you can go to Watkins Wisdom Academy. You can download my training program called Psychic Power and Spirit Communication, and you can do a full training program on how to develop your ability as an everyday person to basically build upon what I have taught you here in this whistle stop tour, a whole load more information that you can go on then to practice. And if you find that you're good at it, there's even tips and tools to help you then go on to then learn to be a medium and to help serve the public, because there is no higher calling in my mind. It is my passion. So I'm here with Etan. Very lucky. I know he said he's going to send me through some questions, so I'm just going to check my phone and let's see what we've got here. So we've got questions. Great. So we've got Melissa. A few weeks after my late mum passed away, I was still very depressed and can't find joy anymore in life. Then I dreamt about her coming to me in her most beautiful self, looking so much younger and beautiful, and she hugged me. So that's what I was saying. I felt it was so real and did not want to wake up. Whilst I know it's not possible that she was alive, I did not ask her to come to me in my dream. Last night she appeared, but I totally can't remember what happened. Or isn't that annoying when that happens? Why is that so? It's because as you come out of the dream state, Melissa, you're coming out of the theta brainwaves where there's total clarity, but you're coming up into the alpha, beta states of awareness. It's very hard to grasp, to remember, to retain the memory of the experience that you've had. But it is in your brain there. It can come. It is very frustrating. It might pop forward at some point, but just know if you remember having the experience, even if you can't remember the details, it's real. Trust it. Okay. I wanted to know where she is now, as in where is her rebirth? As in where is her rebirth? If I'm understanding that, well, that's a very big question. So all I'm going to say is she is now in the spiritual realm. She's in the realms of consciousness. She'll be waiting for you, Melissa. We move in soul groups. So because of that love, she'll be waiting for you and you will see her again. And it's very much like here. I would say as above, so below. We're creating our reality in a way that we understand. So I see beautiful gardens often. I see lovely homes in spirit. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but this is what I see, and I can only talk from my own experience. So I believe that your lovely mum is creating a place for you where you can go, where she can be with you in the future when it's your time. But until then, live well and live in honor of her memory. Okay, so I've also got my son in spirit came to take me home. I woke up with severe chest pains, but told him I couldn't go. I still had work to do. That's from Pauline. Isn't that wonderful, Pauline? Because that means that you know your son's well. And how wonderful that you had the insight to know that you had jobs, a work, a mission to do here, and you needed to stay. I love hearing things like that. Trevor Farrell, thank you, Claire. I always enjoy your energy. If people were uninterested when they were on earth, will there be any more interested when they're in spirit? I know you talk a lot about loved ones, which is very normal, but what is the difference between mediumship and channeling, and how valid is the latter? Okay, well, not necessarily. Let's just get to the first question. They're not always interested in spirit. If they weren't interested here, we take a lot of our personality and our understanding with us. And I've come across people that don't even believe they're dead. It's that easy. Dying is that easy. So yes, some people, if they weren't interested in mediumship and spirit communication when they were here, might not even believe it's possible that side. Could happen. I normally find that most people have realized that their reality is a lot different to what they believed it was, and that they come close to their loved ones, and when they see a light, when they see an opening, they come in and let us know. There is a difference between mediumship and channeling. Basically, we're talking about a matter of degrees. I actually believe channeling is highly valuable. I get a lot of information from channeling. Basically, channeling, when we talk about mediumship, we have different degrees of consciousness or different degrees of going down into deep states of relaxation. Channeling is one where you can be kind of very aware, but you're receiving the download. So I don't know if any of you have ever had a time where maybe you've woken up early in the morning, coming out of those theta states again, and suddenly insight is there. Or, you've received inspiration about what you need to do about a problem that you've been worrying about. If you picked up a pen in those times and wrote it down, you would get wisdom and insight coming to you. You'd get clarity coming to you. You'd get information maybe that you weren't aware of. And if you practice that enough, you start to learn that your spirit guides are coming close to you, and you can recognize the difference, and you can bring direct communication in the form of channeling from them. It's not much different to mediumship, but the next stage along is in mediumship is then blending minds even further so that the medium can get information from the deceased loved one and describe it to another person. The same kind of thing, really. It's just mediumship is delivering a message to somebody else about their loved ones. Channeling may be bringing information in from higher source and giving it out. They're both just as valid in my mind. Okay, Nao, I've been practicing mediumship for over 6 years. Sometimes I get downloads from the sitter's higher self and also from their guides. Oh, that's very impressive. As well as their normal loved ones. Is this normal in mediumship? Well, what's normal? That's the question. And actually, I think it is normal. I've had the same experiences myself. Definitely, I sense loved ones. I deliver that information, but I often get guides and higher self. I've even had one situation that I can remember where I was giving a reading about a lady's father, and she told me that everything I'd said was spot on accurate, except he was still here in a coma and he was about to pass. So his physical body hadn't died yet, and yet he was still communicating from spirit. So, we're dealing with the realms of consciousness. It's not confined to space and time. And, yes, in mediumship, loved ones and guides come through. There are many books that have been channeled from spirit guides through mediums. It happens. I think the thing is, you have to learn as a developing mediumship what evidence of survival is, and you have to then learn how to give that first. Because delivering a message from a spirit guide to somebody who's a beginner, never walked into a medium's room before, could be very off-putting, could be very scary, could be so unbelievable. But if you can, first of all, establish a link with a loved one that person knows, and then bring evidence for their survival through, that's another video, then they're going to feel comfortable. And then if you have a spirit guide after that, then I'm of the viewpoint, if they've come in and your client is ready for it and you're gauging or asking them if they're ready for it even, then it's okay to give it, as long as it's loving, empowering, motivating and inspirational. But of course, when it comes to spirit guides, it's very hard to prove them evidentially. So I bring the whole practice into my own practice with my clients. I do spiritual assessments where guides come in, and I tend to find that the people that are coming close to me, or clients coming for that service, are more open. They're ready for the next level of knowledge. Okay, Sarah says, hi Claire, can our loved ones in spirit give us healing? Yes, absolutely they can. They come close to us. They bring their energy around us. They bring their peace and healing. And they're basically working on the spirit body, on the soul, to try and calm our energies. Because when that happens, the physical body can respond. And we know this already, don't we? We know when we're stressed, we get ill. So if we're going through a stress or dis-ease in the physical body, they come close, they bring us energy, like boosting us like a battery pack, in the hope that if they work on the spirit, it'll filter through to the physical. So absolutely they can bring healing, and I've received it myself. Okay, Matt says, hi, what's your advice on removing negative spiritual attachments? Okay, now that's a whole new subject, Matt. My advice basically is seek somebody who is qualified, trained, and has many years experiences in working with energy healing, the aura, and working with cleansing and clearing the energy space around a person's body. But negative attachments, in my mind, don't necessarily mean a spirit communicator. I want to make sure that's really clear. In my experience, people that receive, when you hear about negative attachments, actually, it's the mental state of the person or persons around them that is getting into their energy field, not that a spirit being has done something awful or negative or battened on, as you used to hear. That, in scientific terms, is as low as 1% of all cases. And the paranormal investigators that I've worked with say that actually possession, obsession, or attachments is so rare, even hardly worth worrying about. Normally, I can assure you, if a healer says that they find something there that is sticky or negative, or it's come from you, it's come from the past, it's come from your ancestors, it's come from people around you, and that's really to do with mental well-being and your healing. So I'm going to say that on that. Okay. Is Christina says, if it's so hard for loved ones who have passed to communicate with us, should we be asking them to? We're not asking them to. We are letting them know it's okay by us if they want to. You cannot call up the dead. It's impossible. And from my experience, and given that I was 4 years old when my granddad forced himself through to get that message to my nan because he loved her so much, you know, they're trying to reach out to us more than we are reaching out to them. Most of us are walking around oblivious and not asking all the time. So that's not really the reality of it all. You can't call them up. If they don't want to come, they're not going to come. Just like you can't force somebody to talk to you in this world if they don't want to. It's as simple as that. You don't even need to worry about it. Lexi Wells says, when I meditate or listen to guided meditations, I tend to fall asleep. What other ways are there? Okay, Lexi. So you may find then that going for a walk is a brilliant way for you to meditate. Listen to the birds, listen to the sounds around you, or listen to meditative music whilst you're walking and taking in the sights. Get still. You can have your eyes open. You don't need to be sitting there closed and falling asleep. I understand that. Another thing you could do, which I often give out as a tip, is when you're going, especially now, we've got to be more hygienic. When you're going to wash your hands, turn the tap on, feel the water as it's going over your hands, listen to the sound of the water, become very present, and then your mind stops and you're not thinking in that time. So little tips like that that you can just bring in that help still your mind. Not everybody likes to sit and do a visualization. And there are so many ways that you can meditate. Just find the way that works for you. Transcendental meditation, you know, saying a mantra over and over, you know, it doesn't matter. It's whatever helps get your mind to quieten down. Okay, and the last one I just got to cover here. Julia, my mother died on Easter in a long-term care, and we weren't allowed to see the body or dress her for the funeral home. I'm so sorry, Julia. Days later, we were allowed to visit at the funeral home before the crematorium. Just feel so disconnected to her death and don't feel her presence. That is so hard. I'm hearing from so many people at the moment whose loved ones have died in isolation because loved ones weren't allowed to go into the hospital or spend time with them. That does make you feel cut off because you weren't given that opportunity to be there, to be present, to feel that you've done everything that you could for that loved one. But can I just give you some reassurance, Julia? In the thousands of readings that I have done, so many of them report in the spirit world that they passed over when their loved ones went home. There is something about not being able to let go and not being able to move into spirit when the people you love here are with you. We hang on for them. I know that nobody dies alone. And if you're worried, Julia, I would point you to What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, to my book. Because in the last chapter, I share the scientific research that's out there, the work of Dr. Penny Sartori, for instance, but other palliative care nurses who report over and over seeing that those who were dying were reporting that they could see their loved ones coming to them to collect them and cross them over. So your loved ones don't die on their own. You may not be there, but they are not dying on their own. And they are able to let go and cross. So I think probably what's happening here is your own mind is trying to deal with the fact you couldn't be there. But if you can just feel a little bit more at peace about that fact, knowing that all is well ultimately, your mind might be able to open up to the idea that your mum be able to come close and let you know she's okay, because she is okay. And it's you that needs the healing in this instance, not your mum. So that's it. I think that's it for this evening now. They're the questions that have come in. I want to thank all of you that have watched here on the live streams for joining us at Watkins Books. And I do hope you've enjoyed the talk. Feel free to come and engage with me at my own Facebook page at Claire Claire Broad Mediumship, and or on my YouTube channel, Together with Spirit, with Watkins Books, with Kindred Spirit, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much this evening, and I want to wish you all the very best. Stay safe and stay well. Good night, everyone.